Cool. Hey guys, I do make this silly mistake of just uh, recording only the visual, not realizing that my microphone is not on. So I actually spoke for close to 10 minutes, and my microphone was not on. This is not the first time I do this. So basically what I was doing was to go through this code that I have written. If you are actually following or you have watched a video where I was explaining the MVHD info, you may see this code a little bit different uh, from that one of the video where I'm actually talking about MVHD. The reason is that it's because I don't want to repeat the same code multiple times. For example, some boxes here, as I would assume that you understand, are container boxes. So that means they don't have the actual content in them, but rather other objects within them. So every time I come across that object, I will have to get all the children of that box. So I've separated that code of getting the children of a specific box, or the children of any box, not a specific box. I've written I've written a code separately that gets the children of a box. So that code looks something like this. We called it get children. So you supply the bytes that defines the parent box, all of that bytes. So those bytes, they will also include the children of that box in them. Then this code is going to go through those bytes. It's going to create a memory stream first and then go through those bytes, recording the offset of each child of that supplied parent object, and then we store them into a list called child boxes. And once we are done, once we have read to the end of the stream that we have created from the parent object, then we return that collection that contains all the child boxes. This is what we record. It's the size of the child box, the name, and the offset within which the offset where that child box is found within the parent. Does that make sense? So the caller at the end is going to have a collection of all the child box that it has supplied, and those child boxes, they will be having the offset, the size, and the name. Does that make sense? So here we are working with the move box. The move box contains the boxes. Some are content boxes, some are container boxes, and within the move box you are able to get a lot of information that relates to the location of all your samples within your MP4 file. Like you will know the location of frames. Like if you want a frame that appears at, let's say, 5 seconds, then you will know that information is stored within the boxes that are found within the move box. Now here we call that method called get children. So it's gonna give us all the child boxes of move box. Then we will go to each child of move box, because we know the offset, we know the name, we know the size of those boxes. Then that would allow us to set or change the position depending on from where do we want to read. Like for example, here we set the position to the offset of MVHD. The first thing, we get the collection, and then from that collection we get an object that has the name MVHD, because that's the object that we want to work on. Then we check, before we do anything, we have to check that it was found. If it's not null, then it comes here. That means this object is there. Then we get inside this if statement. Then we change the position to the offset that we have recorded when we were getting the children from this method, as I've shown previously. So Then we read that whole box, and then we call the method that is specific to that child box to get the contents, if the content that is stored within that object, if it's a content object. Here we have looked at MVHT. Now we are looking at tracks. As we know, an MP4 file may be composed of multiple tracks. So for example, if you have a video track, which is the visuals that you see, and the audio track, which is what we hear when we are watching an MP4 file, and sometimes what do they call it, the subtitles have their own separate track within an MP4 file. So when you get those tracks, you get from the collection, when you have that MP4 file with those tracks, then you're gonna have multiple track object. So here we get all the objects that are track. Each track object would be containing information that is specific to a track, a video track, a audio track, and a subtitle track. So now we check if it's not null. Again, we have to make sure that it's not null. But here the standard then says that an MP4 file without any tracks is useless. Why would you have an MP4 file that does not have any tracks? So that means it does not contain anything, because track, it's information that is specific to a track. So that means you have to at least have one track. It's a must. It's what the standard says. But anyway, we do, for safety purposes, we do check if it's not null. Then if it's not null, we go through that collection of tracks depending on how many of them are. So as we go through, we obviously change the position. Say, okay, we want to set the position, the starting position from the offset that we have recorded, and then we read that track, the bytes that defines that track object into this variable, and then we call the get track method, which knows how to pass the track object, because the track object is itself a container object. It contains other objects which may themselves be container object or content object. For example, one of the child boxes that you are going to get within the track, it's the TKHD track header. So that track header is a content object. It contains content that is specific to this track that you will be reading, and then it has other container objects like media object, which contains information that now relates to the location of the samples of that specific track. So we don't have the implementation of get track yet. But here we just got that object, and then we're going to call that method, and then when you call that method, we're going to write the implementation within the track object. Watch the next video on how this code will look like. Thank you very much.